Breaking news here at 12:30. A shooting just happened at the protest over a Juan de Onate statue that was set to be put up in Espanola. We want to get out to our Spencer Schacht, who was at that event when this erupted. Spencer, we're happy to see that you and your photographer Adon are safe. What can you tell us?
Well, yes, Danielle, Adon and I are safe. We've moved away from the area that has been surrounded by police tape. But about a half an hour ago, a man was shot by a counter-protester here right in front of the county clerk's office. We caught the moment on camera when you heard that gunshot. Listen to this.
Let him go!
Just a little bit more context of what was happening in those moments. My photographer Adon and I were right in front of the county clerk's office door listening to speakers talk about and celebrate that the Onate statue was not going to be resurrected today when one of the counter-protesters charged the block where the Onate statue was supposed to go up and where protesters had built a small shrine. A couple of the folks who were protesting tried to tackle the man who was charging at the statue, and he pulled out a gun and fired a single shot and ran away and drove away. Witnesses tell us that he drove away in a white Tesla, but the suspect's description is young, about early 20s, shoulder-length brown curly hair, was wearing a red Make America Great Again hat, a bright teal hoodie, and jeans. There's no word right now about the condition, about the man who was shot, and no word yet from police on whether or not the suspect has been apprehended. Talking to some folks who were out here for the protest say the man who pulled out his gun was known to them as an online troll who would show up at events like this just to raise a stink and counter-protest what they are saying. That's all the information we have right now, but we will continue to follow this and bring you more tonight at 5 and 6. Danielle?
All right, Spencer Schacht live for us in Espanola. We saw a lot of state police around that area. We're going to have much more, as he mentioned, coming up in our later newscast.
Let him go.
And that is video from a witness showing what led up to a shooting at a protest today where a statue of Juan de Onate was supposed to go back up. But up until last night, the plan was to return that statue of Juan de Onate to a courtyard just outside the county building in Espanola. Well, that plan got canceled over safety concerns.
Now we see why. No statue went up, but as you saw, there was still serious violence. We have team coverage tonight from our crews in Espanola. Tommy Lopez is uncovering what we know about the alleged shooter. We want to start, though, with Spencer Schacht, who witnessed this shooting as it happened. Spencer, you called 911 right away. So glad you and Adon, our photographer, are okay. So what did you see that led up to this shooting today?
Well, Tessa, essentially it was a case of protesters versus counter-protesters. Now, the protesters who were out here celebrating that the Onate statue did not go back up today were just feet away from this cement block that is right in front of the county building. But that is when the moment when a counter-protester rushed towards the group, jumping over this wall and started running towards them. And that's where we see that gets picked up here by this video from Instagram. You can see the counter-protester, who we were later able to identify through Facebook as Ryan Martinez, ran towards the crowd and was tackled by the folks who were against the Onate statue. They were able to take off his Make America Great Again hat as he jumped back over the wall and pulled out a gun, fired one shot, striking a protester. Organizers from today's protest say there was no need for this violence, but they aren't surprised that it happened.
There's so much precedence for telling people like this young man, this shooter, that they're going to get away with it. And I fully believe he did this thinking that he would get away with it.
Now, state police were able to arrest Martinez just a short time later, but protesters say this is a perfect example of why they were out here in the first place.
This demonstrates exactly what we were fighting for. We have been pointing out that this hasn't been just about a statue, but about what it represents and the legacy of violence and hate that it is a foundation for.
Now, after this shooting, I was able to call the chair of the Rio Arriba County Commission, who's a big proponent for putting the statue back up on that pedestal. I asked him after everything that happened this afternoon, does he still want that statue to be put up? Here's what he had to say.
If it was up to me, that statue would go back up. When? I don't know, but the fact of the matter is that I am not going to melt that statue just to satisfy 2 or 3 individuals that are not even from this valley.
Now, the county commission meeting that was scheduled to happen tonight has been postponed until October 5th. That decision was made before the shooting happened, but there is no word yet on the fate of the Onate statue, on whether or not it will be put up, and if it is, when. Back to you.
Spencer, good work today. We're glad you're safe. Let's get over to Tommy Lopez now, who got a short update from the Rio Arriba County Sheriffs. Tommy, what'd they say?
Yeah, it was short, Ryan. We still have a lot of unanswered questions tonight amid this investigation. Law enforcement officials are hardly saying anything at all. The Rio Arriba County Sheriff did speak here just about an hour ago, and they did give an update just saying there is no update on the victim's condition. We do have video of them on a stretcher today, and the sheriff says they are still getting medical care. They're not naming the victim. Sheriff Billy Merrifield thanked his deputies. We saw them there before the shooting, but not when it happened. I asked him why his deputies were not there. He said he's not taking questions right now.
Once again, the saddest part about this is we have another incident with gun violence.
The sheriff said he had voiced safety concerns before today about the rededication of the statue. Having said all that, it is state police who are handling the investigation. Law enforcement officials have not released the suspect's name, but we have confirmed his identity through witnesses and through his social media profiles. We're going to name him tonight. He is Ryan Martinez. We are seeing an image here from today, from our video. It shows him holding a gun. We have learned more about Martinez from his Facebook page. He has posted links recently to articles on today's protest. He has posted pictures of himself with a Make America Great Again hat like we saw him in today, and one where he's standing next to a Tesla. It appears to be the same one that we saw him driving today. Again, he is in custody, and we have just learned tonight that the City of Espanola Police Chief Maizel Garcia arrested the suspect with the aid of Powake Police. We will let you know when we learn more. Back to you.
Yeah, a lot to follow in this investigation. Tommy, thanks. This is the statue in question. It was taken down in 2020 in Alcalde following protests around the country over controversial figures. The statue has been the source of controversy even for decades. Its foot getting hacked off back in the 1990s.
And of course, this shooting brings back awful memories of the violence in Old Town Albuquerque at yet another protest over another Onate statue. This was back in June 2020. Protesters surrounded that statue of Juan de Onate near the Albuquerque Museum. The protests, though, also attracted armed militia members, including Stephen Ray Baca, who police say assaulted 2 women and then shot a man multiple times. Baca took a plea deal earlier this year. That's him right there in the blue shirt. His sentencing is scheduled for November. City crews removed that statue from that area the day after the shooting. The statue's fate is still in limbo. The city's Race History and Healing Project recommended later in 2020 it not be returned to that site.
All this continues to unfold today. Tess and the team are working on continuing coverage for you tonight at 10 o'clock. And of course, as always, on KOB.com.
Also, we're seeing the criminal complaint in this case. It gives some details about what happened after the gun was fired. And Spencer Schacht joins us now with these details after being at that protest yesterday. Spencer, what have we learned?
Yeah, Tommy, these documents show what state police were able to quickly, or why state police was able to quickly arrest Martinez. And it's all thanks to the quick response of the protesters who witnessed the shooting. Some even chased after him. Moments after 23-year-old Ryan Martinez fired his gun, multiple witnesses called 911.
He was wearing a gray or teal sweatshirt with a red MAGA hat.
Some rendered aid to the victim. One even hopped in his truck to follow the shooter, who drove away. Multiple witnesses were able to identify the shooter as Ryan Martinez because he was well known for trolling protesters online. The criminal complaint details multiple interviews with witnesses, including Janae Yazi, an organizer with the Indian Collective.
We are very lucky that he wasn't able to fire again, which he tried to do, because of the quick response of our people on the ground and because people have been dealing with this violence for so long that we had people ready to be able to know what to do and to spring into action for this.
Investigators also give credit to a protester named Mateo for following Martinez after he drove away, saying, Mateo saw Ryan driving away from the complex in a white Tesla. Mateo decided to engage in a chase so Ryan would not get away. A short time later, the 23-year-old was arrested and questioned. Police quoted Martinez asking, "What are the chances if someone who attempted murder would be allowed to walk out?" Police said that would be up to a judge. According to the criminal complaint, when investigators showed Martinez a photo of himself pointing a gun at a protester, he reportedly chuckled. Now, according to New Mexico court records, this is the first time Martinez has had a run-in with the law.
Case going to the federal level. Spencer Schacht spoke to the family's lawyer tonight, and Spencer, they want the steepest charges possible in this case.
Yeah, Tessa, Jacob John's family says they actually want this to be classified as a hate crime, and they really want the feds to get involved. Jacob John's family describes him as an indigenous activist, artist, and father on the GoFundMe page set up to cover his medical expenses. Last month, Johns was shot during an indigenous prayer ceremony celebrating the decision not to rededicate the Juan de Onate statue in Espanola.
I can please get you guys to move back.
The family strongly believes that this ought to be characterized by the Department of Justice as a hate crime.
The suspected shooter, 23-year-old Ryan Martinez, is facing attempted murder and aggravated assault charges. But Johns' family says that's not enough.
The facts of the case as gathered by law enforcement indicate that the shooter was incredibly agitated, incredibly upset, incredibly hateful toward the practices that the Native people were engaged in. And that's what qualifies it as a hate crime.
Witnesses of the shooting told investigators they saw Martinez trying to provoke negative reactions by touching their shrine. Another witness says she heard Martinez making racist comments to children during the morning event.
The shooter who goes to this peaceful Native prayer event, he's wearing a MAGA hat, he's carrying a loaded weapon. His statements at the prayer event make it clear that he was motivated by hatred, by bias towards Native Americans.
John's family says that hatred is what led to Martinez shooting Johns after the altercation. Can you give us an update on your client? How is he doing? Is he still in the hospital?
Jacob's still in the hospital, and it's right now things are dicey as far as his health goes. He was the wounds were severe. He's lost organs. For example, he's lost his spleen. There was damage to his liver, damage to his abdomen. This was a bullet ripping through human flesh, and it's just amazing that it didn't cause any more damage than it did. But he is not out of the woods.
Thank you. So Day says that the federal government and the Department of Justice works on their own timeline, so we don't know if or when these federal hate crime charges will ever be added.
Yeah.
But the family added Indigenous Peoples Day was the time that they felt was the right time to start calling for these charges to be filed.
Yeah, well, we'll of course be following it to see if those charges are filed. Okay, Spencer, thank you.
The man seen on video and charged with shooting a protester at the postponed installation of the Onate statue in Espanola will remain in jail until trial. Spencer Schacht spent the day at the Rio Arriba County Courthouse for this preliminary and detention hearing for the suspect, Ryan Martinez. Spencer, how did the judge come to this decision?
Well, Tommy, we heard multiple testimonies today from the state's witnesses, and that includes eyewitnesses, responding officers, and investigators in this case. Now, they all laid out the events that led up to the shooting and the chaotic scene that followed, including a car chase that went through Espanola and ended when Ryan Martinez was pulled over in Powake. Now, today in front of a judge, Ryan Martinez sat in court wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs on both his hands and his feet. And after hours of testimony, the judge ruled that there is enough probable cause for this case to go to a criminal trial. The judge cited multiple videos showing the shooting and the fact that Martinez brought multiple firearms and fully loaded magazines to an event that could possibly end in a confrontation.
Whether or not it was public property and he had a right to be there, it was clearly evident that those individuals were occupying a particular place, and his intention was to enter into the area that they were occupying. That any reasonable person would have known full well that attempting to do that after having once already been dispelled from their vicinity would cause them to react, and potentially react in an aggressive manner, knowing full well that he was equipped with a concealed firearm, fully loaded with a second magazine.
Now, after the ruling you just heard, there was a pretrial detention hearing. There, Ryan Martinez's attorney requested that he be released to the custody of his parents. She told the judge that they have cleared all guns and alcohol from their home and they don't have any close-by neighbors. She also suggested putting Ryan Martinez on a GPS monitor. But even all of those conditions didn't satisfy the judge, and he said those couldn't guarantee the safety of the entire community.
It's concerning behavior, to say the least. It is certainly violent in its nature, and the circumstances seem to be created by Mr. Martinez.
Now, following today's hearing, we did hear from the family of the victim, Jacob Johns, for the first time. Now, tonight at 6, we're going to hear an update on his conditions and her reaction from the judge.
Thank you, Spencer. That decision came after hours of testimony from witnesses and investigators describing what led up to this shooting. Spencer Schacht is live for us tonight after being in the Oriba County Courthouse all day. Spencer, how did people react to this shooting, to this ruling here?
Well, Tommy, there were tears on both sides of the courtroom. Ryan Martinez's family were crying because their son will not be coming home anytime soon. But over on the other side, there were tears of relief and joy from friends and family of the shooting victim, Jacob Johns. And while they're happy with the judge's ruling, they know that there is a long legal battle ahead of them.
I just want you to remember that this is the start of justice. This isn't over yet. This is the first step. And I so am grateful for the judge and for all those that helped clarify what the truth was.
In court today, we heard from a UNM hospital surgeon who took care of Johns after he was airlifted from Espanola. He detailed the severity of Johns' injuries, and after the hearing, we got an update from Johns' friends and family, saying he is out of the intensive care unit, but is still recovering in the hospital.
And yeah, my son is still fighting for his life, but as a mom, I have to project. I'm positive he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay.
Friends and family also called for federal hate crime charges to be filed against Ryan Martinez, saying that he opened fire at a Native American religious ceremony, comparing it to shooting at a mosque or a synagogue. There's no word yet from federal prosecutors on whether, if or when those charges will be filed. Tommy?
It would certainly add to what that man is facing. Thank you, Spencer.